the church Scientology is so afraid of.
This is SPTV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to part 2 of us reacting to the ABC 2020 interview, Scientology, A War Without Guns. So if you joined us in our previous video, you know that we embarked on a journey where we have shared our raw, unfiltered thoughts on our ABC 2020 interview. And today we're going to continue the exploration into the unsettling truths behind the mainstream media's involvement with Scientology. In our last video, we laid bare the deeply disturbing abuses within Scientology and the impact that it has had on countless lives, and the support and the encouragement that we have received has been truly heartwarming. So I have now doubled down on my commitment to contribute to this motion. So now it's time to peel back the layers of misinformation and confront the uncomfortable reality of the lack of responsible reporting and how that has taken a full back seat.
Character and your motives. Well, then perhaps you'd find yourself talking like actress Leah Remini.
No one ever wants to turn around and go, okay, this thing I've been defending and promoting and helping was a lie.
Remini's own story arc rivals that of any character she's ever played. Born in Brooklyn, raised in the church, she would rise to stardom on the hit sitcom The King of Queens.
Hey, how about this? How about this? I go over there, punch him in the head, and come right back.
Carrie, no! Like Tom Cruise and other celebrity Scientologists, Remini vocally supported the church.
We are the most ethical group you're ever going to find, and actually the only group that's really making change for mankind.
I promoted the church. I defended the church.
The church believes Scientology can liberate the individual mind and indeed the entire human race from its current state of enslavement.
When we say that the media has provided -0 pushback on talking points that have been fed to them by Scientology, we mean that in every sense of the word. The fact that the mainstream media sits outside these hotels and commercial buildings where they have now been made fully aware that children inside that hotel are being enslaved. And the media will talk from the other side of their mouth and say that these hotels and commercial buildings were set up to help free mankind from being enslaved. So the question for the mainstream media is, which one is it? Are they in the business of breaking people free from chains, or are they in the business of enslaving minors and other adults? It'd be interesting to see if the mainstream media develops the necessary critical thinking skills to make that type of discernment, because apparently that's something that is very hard for this mainstream media that we have in the United States to make, at least for ABC 2020 that took a stab at this. Let's continue.
By studying the teachings of its founder, the prolific 20th century science fiction writer L. Ron Hubbard.
Scientology means knowledge or truth, study of.
Hubbard's elaborate belief system.
Now, here we go again to give these people a shout out, because while they do mention that Scientology's founder, L. Ron Hubbard, was a science fiction writer, what the mainstream media is failing to mention in that same sentence is that he also died an unindicted runaway felon. So the mainstream media decided it's not their job to do any type of due diligence on the writings of this man. And granted, it is not easy to digest material. If you're going to study L. Ron Hubbard, you're going to have to clear a lot of the words that he's using to confuse its end users. And you're not going to be able to see through that very intentional, thick layer of euphemisms so that lazy people fall off the wagon before they even begin to really take a stab at the subject itself, which is what's been normalized inside these hotels and commercial buildings as a direct result of the instructions and the procedures, the so-called technical procedures, the steps that were required to be applied. You know, the mainstream media is calling this a so-called religion, but Scientology told them that this was an applied religious philosophy, and it was a technology that was getting applied. So if a technology is getting applied, why is the mainstream media not able to connect dots? It'd be good to put that question out there so that perhaps we could get an answer from the top editors of this 2020 interview that gave a green light to put this little segment together. Let's continue and see what else they did.
Involved an alternate history of the universe and a unique vocabulary to describe Scientology's concepts and practices.
He is a spirit, and he actually can exist independent of his body. This is one of the more interesting discoveries in Scientology.
The church's promotional videos highlight its international efforts to quite literally save the world.
Yet again, here's another failure of the mainstream media to investigate. Because going back to this concept of them having a so-called unbiased reporting, with the pretext that they have unbiased reporting, they constantly sanitize the image of these people that are in there in those hotels abusing people. And before showing all these videos, callously showing these videos, purporting that they are saving the word literally. I mean, just because Dan says literally with a little bit of like an undercurrent of not believing them, he's saying that that's what they're doing, in fact. So it's very convoluted, and it sends a wrong signal and a wrong, confusing message. Are these people saving the world, or are they enslaving people? Because which one is it? If you are saving the world, how are you going to save the world if you're going to enslave the end user, the person that you're selling freedom to is your slave. And, but the mainstream media doesn't do any due diligence on is really pouring through the contracts that are put in front of Scientology's end users. If it was their job to find out what the hell is going on, you would think that they would start with some of the basic facts, but they just don't care to dig in to actually find out what are the facts. And we have this quickie reporting that we're getting to go more in depth into. Let's see what else they say.
What does it do for you, the individual? Why would I join?
Well, what you would be told is that you're working to be your better self in all areas of your life.
The way Leah tells it, her disillusionment with the church traces back to this man.
My name is David Miscavige.
David Miscavige, who took over the church in 1986 after Hubbard died.
They would call me a word called disaffected, which was that I was showing signs of not being in line with the group.
That disaffection has driven Remini to join a group of former Scientologists crusading against the church as passionately as they once defended it.
The actual writings and teachings of Scientology is harmful and dangerous to people.
I'm going to stop the video right here because something that Leah said, again, 5 years ago, back in 2017, is something that has been completely trivialized. Whenever we speak about the fact that the writings of the unindicted runaway felon enshrined as a so-called religious figure, whenever those writings are cited and we say that they are harmful, that they instruct people to commit harmful acts, to entitle themselves to become completely deranged and delusional, filled with delusions of grandeur that are artificially propped up by the writings of an unindicted runaway felon. See how that just came back full circle? And I think this is a good point to end this video, with all of us really having to question, what is it going to take for the people that are wanting to make a lot of money on reporting news, on people that want to make a lot of money for their editors and their corporate people, to actually put some skin in the game themselves? Because when these organizations come to us, the victims, I mean, granted, they got us when we were very naive and young and coming up of shock. And we were still very easily susceptible to gaslighting. And in this case, it was being gaslit by the enablers of our abusers. And before anybody says, oh no, Serge, you have no idea what you're talking about, the media is not enabling anything. Well, if somebody wants to call it that, that's up to them. But if the media is not enabling them, they sure as hell are doing nothing effective to stop anything. So once again, we are left with this question. Which one is it? Are they here to do a job, or are they here to waste our time? Are they going to follow their ethical rules on responsible reporting, or are they going to continue to ignore the real pain, the real suffering, the real consequences that come from signing a contract at Monique Yingling's hotel chains, where every last end user that's made to sign those contracts is immediately turned against himself. The contracts that Monique Yingling offers to become a member of her hotel chain are always going to be in the worst, not best interest of that end user. So let's really let that simmer and sizzle in the brains of those who have not done their job. As much as they sit on the sidelines criticizing the problem, they haven't even begun to understand what the problem is, apparently, as seen in this second segment and second part of our video. So let's join me on the next one for part 3.